How do you embrace new cultures in an organization?
How do you navigate them in a way that they can accept the new idea that you might be bringing to them?
Or as a consultant or a trainer, you have to really show the value of the result of the change.
Why did you decide to move to Dubai?
If I was in England, there's no way that I'm going to be sitting like the royal family is going to just say, yeah, let's meet up next week and let's take a photo shoot. It's just not going to happen.
You live for the purpose of others, not for yourself.
But I've learned that we've all got something in our hand. Doesn't matter how small it is. And my thing is, if you keep it closed, how does it grow?
I never knew that you were actually a singer.
Oh, yeah.
We are going to listen to you sing today. How do you describe leadership in terms of business and business environment? What does it even mean?
The ones I've experienced have been one-on-one.
Usually, we are happy to have the best people around here, and that is what is happening today. We are having somebody who already have been here before. You know, what usually happens is that by the time you have a guest who happen to be here again the second time, it means there is a kind of a synergy about that. It means we had a good time, and that is what is happening today. So I'm happy to have Michelle, who already did a very important conversation with us before. But today she's here again to help us dissect the conversation around corporate leadership and coaching. And of course, if you're in business now, that should make sense to you. So, Michelle, thank you so much again for being here.
Thank
Could you
you.
tell the Thank you. Could you tell the people who you are? Let's pretend this is your first time here. So tell the people who you are.
So I am Michelle Raymond. I'm a leadership development consultant. I operate with a team of other leadership coaches and trainers, and we deliver training to organizations who want to increase their cultural awareness, their cultural intelligence, and increase their level of inclusion within their teams. So that's what we do. And part of the business also helps entrepreneurs source and secure corporate engagements. So corporate engagements could be anything from a training gig, a speaking gig, to a long-term 2-year, 3-year training program with a corporate organization. So those are the two main areas that I focus in. I also sit on a number of boards. One of them, namely, is Lloyd's Black Business Advisory Board. So in making sure that the bank um, lives up to their promises, we make sure that they live up to their promises. So that's part of what we do. And so I sit on that board. And I also sit on another board, a charity as well, helping young people find their feet in the world. So yeah, that's a bit about me.
That's lovely. And we sort of love that in very many areas. In that within the We Diaspora organization, which is okay, I'm just making mention of that. We believe so much in the power of giving back to the community, to the society. And of course, the community now, we mean the African diaspora community. And of course, also people in the diaspora who want to be able to connect to their roots. So we
Yes.
believe so much this idea of giving back and the corporate responsibility. So here, maybe you might help us to understand what you mean by cultural awareness, because it's like you are just touching us in the heart. As people of Africa, they said, we love so much that idea of celebrating our culture, our cultural heritage. That is what we are essentially about. So just to sort of get that as a pointer to the conversation, what do you mean by cultural awareness within the business area?
Yeah. So obviously, every organization has its own distinct culture. So for Google, their culture is all about being innovative, being vibrant, bringing new ideas to the table. That's their culture. Then you might have another organization, let's say an institution, an educational institution. Their culture might be one of it's all about credit or credibility in terms of education. They're a bit more formal, a bit more structured. So every company, every organization has its culture, which is made up of signs, symbols, artifacts, anything, ways of working. So when I'm talking about cultural intelligence, it's about how do you embrace new cultures in an organization? Because what tends to happen, organizations will hire people who are like themselves, who already fit within the culture. So, but because of that, it doesn't make the organization diverse. It doesn't make it inclusive. But when we're talking about cultural intelligence, it's being aware that our culture is like this, but we want to bring in people that are different, people who are unique, people who are authentic, that can add value to our culture, not necessarily have to fit in the existing culture. So that's what we do a lot of work on, is getting organizations to see the value, leaders who see the value of adding to a culture rather than just getting people that fit straight in. And that's why they end up hiring people who are always the same as them.
That's very interesting. Now, okay, maybe we'll have time to get back to that later on. Let's look at the kind of the look at it from what you call a 3 feet view. How did you get into corporate coaching, corporate leadership coaching, as it were? Tell us
Yes.
about that.
Well, so my background is in human resources. I've been in HR for more than 25 years now. And by nature of my job and my role is all about people, getting the best out of people. And so that was an easy segue into coaching and personal development, personal and professional. So that's what we've done. That's how I got into leadership coaching and training, is because my background was already in HR and I just continued. But what was the trigger for change for me is when I had coaching done with me, and I saw the benefits of allowing, the coach was so good and she allowed me to see where I needed to improve. So rather than her just dictate and say, do this, do that, change this, I was able to see it within myself, and that sticks with you because you come to those conclusions. And coaching is really about guiding somebody so that they can make, they can be progressive, productive, successful. And that's why we do this with leaders, because now more than ever we need leaders who are authentic, leaders who are compassionate, leaders that stick to what they say. They lead from a place of compassion. And so, yeah, and that's why I got into it.
All right. Okay, now let's look at it from the point of view of a corporate leader. Okay, now you can be talking to a coach, or you can be coaching somebody who is just starting a business, who have not yet got the foot in the water. They don't yet know how it goes around. So you're sort of holding them by the hand and walking them through. Okay, now that is different from maybe when you are coaching a corporate, somebody maybe who is already well trained as a professional, as a leader in the business field. And maybe now you are preaching this idea to him or her about corporate responsibility, or maybe about diversity in workplace, or about this even injecting a new energy into the business field, maybe different from what they already have been doing all these years. How do you bring that in? I mean, is there a kind of resistance on their part? How do you navigate them in a way that they can accept the new idea that you might be bringing to them?
So, like anything, change is scary. Change is scary. And I find that corporates, and when I'm saying corporates, I'm just talking about organizations, right? I find that they are so risk averse. And so you have to really, as a coach or as a consultant or a trainer, you have to really show the value of the result of the change. You let them know that the process might be messy, the process might be uncomfortable, but if you can show them what the result can look like and how it's going to impact them, how it's going to impact the bottom line, how it's going to impact the department and the organization as a whole, that's where change becomes less resistant. But you've got to take them through the process. You hold their hands, because there's going to be times that they have to show up differently. They have to behave differently. They might have to speak differently. They might have to show up in rooms differently. And they're not used to it, especially if you're dealing with people who are set in their ways. Especially when you're dealing with people who've always done something the way they have. And as far as they're concerned, there's been no problem. It's always worked. So you're trying to show them where it has worked, but why it won't work for the future, and why now is the apt time to make those shifts. And so we do incremental shifts. We can't do, when we go in and doing any change management work, we can't just go in gung ho. We have to do it incrementally, little by little, so that they get used to the change. Once that sticks or freezes, then we do a next level of change.
All right, the next level of change. Now, tell me about maybe some of the challenges that they might have instead of maybe that might be inhibiting them from taking the offer that you are bringing to them. Okay, like you said, they already trained, they have their set of rules on how to get to the result that they want. But sometimes the result that you want that might be good for you. But if you have a foresight of what the industry is going to be in few years time, then you need to strategize. You need to plan ahead. To do that, you need to retrain. You need to learn new things. For you to be able to do that, you need a bit of openness in your approach. So some of these people, some of these leaders, business leader or corporate leader, as it were in general term, might be having some challenges. But which are actually these challenges that might not be helping them to open up immediately, so that you don't have to deal with it and get them to open up for you, and then you walk them through the process.
Yeah, and most of the time it's around people, getting them to change for other people. So, for example, if I wanted to upskill some new members, I have to be aware that existing members may think that their role is now untenable. It means that they're not safe. Because what people tend to do, they want to hold on to their knowledge, hold on to what they know and their expertise, so that no one else can take their job. But I want to try and show them how actually adding to the mix is only going to improve your knowledge base, and for them not to be scared. So it's getting them to make those changes and to see how it can benefit them. Now, everyone's selfish. Yeah. So they always want to know what's in it for me. Yeah. What's in it for them. So I have to always show them the benefits first before they start thinking, well, if I help this person, if I expand my knowledge and my expertise to this, or what does that mean? It's making me less there's a word, I can't remember what the word, but it makes me I'm not going to be the only one that can do the work, which means, it makes them feel really vulnerable. So I want to show them how bringing in new minds, new ways of thinking, new behaviors only amplifies what you're already doing. And I'm trying to get these companies to look at a strategic level. Like, there are other organizations who are doing it well, which means your customer base will move over to them because they're with the times. They're talking to this new generation. They have ways of working that this new generation can resonate with. So if you do not change, if you don't keep up with the times, it's going to become archaic for you. It's going to become archaic. So showing them the benefits to them first is absolutely critical, because they'll give you 101 reasons why they can't do it. They don't have time. They don't see the cost benefit analysis. They don't see the cost benefit return on investment. So all of these things you've got to show them.
All right. I have a question to ask you related to maybe productivity and how you get to the result. But before we get there, I want you to tell us, why did you decide to move to Dubai? Because you are talking to us from that experience now, right? Because the last time that we talked, you were in the UK, but now you have moved to you have moved to Dubai, where you are operating from a different vantage point. Could you share with us about that?
Yeah, and listen, so Dubai is one of these places, you either love it or you hate it, right? So a lot of people don't like it because they feel it's fake, it's man-made, nothing's real, there's no history. But I look at it from a different perspective. We're very much a society that is forward-looking. And if you were to list, or if you were to Google a list of cities in the world that are forward thinking, that has economic, that they're thriving economically, Dubai will be on that list. It'll be in the top 5 of that list, right? Because they may not have the history per se, like, some of the countries that have been around for donkey's years, like China, but they definitely have a history. They've been around for at least 50 years, right? So there's some history there, but they're very much interested in looking forward. And for me, that means a lot to me and my offspring, and then my offspring, right? My generation beyond generation. And the opportunities that I found out there are just so, there's just opportunities everywhere out there. I find in the UK, so I'll give you a really good scenario. I went to an event out in Dubai the second day I landed, actually, and the ruler of Dubai, so call it, it'd be like the president over here, right? So the ruler of Dubai's daughter was at this event. And my business partner was with me, and my business partner was saying, "Go, Michelle, go and say hello, go and take a picture of the princess." I was like, I didn't really want to. And he was saying, "No, go and do it. Go and, go and take a picture." So I went, I spoke to her aide and I asked if we can take a picture. We took the picture, but it was by the elevator. When I got back to my accommodation, I sent the aide a message to say thank you for allowing me to take the picture. My team and I were thinking that we could write a little article about what the princess talked about in her speech, and we can share it with you to get clearance before we publish it. And here's the picture. And she said, "Oh, the picture is not the quality that they would like out in the public." Then they suggested, would I like to have a photo shoot with Her Royal Highness? And I was like, of course, of course. And so we organised this photo shoot like 2 weeks later in a lovely hotel. And she allowed me to interview her. It was audio, but she allowed me to video her. We took some pictures, and so now we're waiting for sign off of that interview so that we can progress it. If I was in England, there's no way that I'm going to be sitting like the royal family is going to just say, "Yeah, let's meet up next week and let's take a photo shoot." It's not going to happen. So I find that Dubai, you can get close proximity with high net worth individuals quicker than if you can out here. And you can form business relationships. I was on a yacht on the Monday for networking drinks. By Wednesday, I was invited by someone on that yacht to a high level meeting with one of the biggest banks out in Dubai. I don't know what they were talking about, but I was there. I was in the room. I was with different sheikhs. I was with different politicians. And I just was like, "Michelle, it's do or die. So swim, my baby, swim." And I was just talking. I was engaging. We were networking. And that's just what it happens, right? These things are just, I'm not saying it wouldn't happen in the UK, but it takes such a long time, and you need this person to refer you, then that person to refer you, where it can happen much quicker. They're open to entrepreneurship. They've got so many initiatives that are driving entrepreneurs. They want to get more people from across the globe coming. Yeah. And then plus my daughter now lives out in Dubai, and she's only 19 and she's got a job in real estate. So that's another reason for me to be out there.
That's lovely. You talked of networking. That make me actually remember one of the interview that I've done. Okay, I've done a number of interview. I've done more than 1,000 interview talking to different people. So there was this lawyer from Iran that I interviewed in Australia. He lives in Australia. He's an immigration lawyer. He shared with me a particular experience that he had when he just moved from Iran to Australia. That there was this engagement that he had because he didn't know how to engage with the people. Not that he doesn't know English. And okay, I think he was also having a little bit of challenges in English. Okay, coming from Iran now, it's not like Iran is an English-speaking country. So he didn't know how to engage with people. So he just stayed there in a networking event up to himself. I think maybe reading a book or a newspaper. Then nobody talked to him because he didn't talk to anybody. Then he left home. He went away like that. And he thought something was wrong with this. But later, he sort of learned how to work with people, because you're going to have to work with people, because this world is not just for you and for you alone. I like what you were saying. Swim, baby, swim. Because you're going to have to do this. So I want you to tell me about this power of networking, of working with people in a place like Dubai, for example.
you it's exposure, right? So that's what I call it. Networking is exposure. And for me, I challenge myself to be exposed to new minds, not the same minds that I'm used to, the same types of conversations I'm used to. I want to push myself. So it means I have to be in rooms. So for example, even for that event that I went to, the lady told me the types of people are going to be in the room. I did my research. I just checked on LinkedIn. Who are they? What do they talk about? What is their area of expertise? Let me just do a little bit of reading. Somebody was in like cryptocurrency, the other one's in trading, the other one's in finance. So I just, picked a little bit of information from Google just to educate myself so that I can speak to them at their level. All right. And then obviously I can stay my authentic self and I can share what I do and what I know. And I know that it piques their interest because I was the only one like me in the room. Yeah. I was the only black person in the room. There wasn't very many women, and I came from a non-technical background as well. So, and my thing is, and I said this in one interview, when I walk into a room, I want to change the atmosphere. That's my role. Not to mean all eyes on me. It's not about that. It's not being the loudest one in the room. But there should be something about my presence when I'm exposed to new people and new entities that it changed the atmosphere of the room. And that's exactly what I did. And from there, I was able to book 3 meetings with people there, and I'm trying to get them now involved in an event that I'm hosting in Dubai. And that's because my intention is to leave the right energy in every room that I enter. So networking is critical, and you can be an introvert and still network because there's different ways that you network. So you don't need to be an extrovert. You just need to know I how do I come across that I'm interested in them? Yeah, that is so it's less about yourself, more about them. So yeah, you can have all the elevator pitches in the world. No one ever says it exactly the same, right? But my thing is, how can I find out more about you? How can I support you? And I heard something on Sunday, which was so relevant. And if I can remember it rightly, the preacher said, we are not here on this earth for us. Once we realize that our legacy is tied up in what we can do for others, we operate at a higher purpose. And that's what I want to do. Operate at a higher purpose because I know when I put on workshops, when I put on seminars, when I put on webinars, it's for the greater good of others. And that's how I get served. So that's what we do when we go to networking events.
Wow, that is beautiful, Michelle. That is truly, truly beautiful. You see, a couple of years ago, I interviewed a professor, a Nigerian professor in the UK. His name is Professor Oluwafemi Esan. And so he told, you see, when I share this story, it's it's a little bit emotional for me because it's central to what I do, which is the ideal of service, be in service. He said, because we talked on Ifa theology, which is Ifa, of course, is part of the Yoruba extraction of Nigeria. He's shared with me that according to Ifa theology, when a child is born and this child is 7, 8 years old, the elders among Ifa, of course, if they are practitioners of Ifa, we gather to consult an oracle. He said, the purpose of the oracle is to find out what is the mission of this child. Now, somebody might be wondering, okay, that is my child. It's my child. Let me care about my child. No, the child is not seen just as a property of yours. The child is seen as a member of the entire community. The question, therefore, is what message have you brought to this community? You see, when the professor is sharing this story with me, he's also going to make reference to something else that he said, look at the fruit, for example. Look at mango tree. Do you see mango producing fruit and the mango eating the fruit? He said, no. The mango fruit is for other things other than the mango. If you are an orange plant, you don't eat your orange. You don't eat your orange fruits. which is to say that nature is very intelligent being. Nature is a living thing, and it's also very intelligent in that it makes sure that you don't consume yourself.
Yes.
You live for the purpose of others, not for yourself. That's actually where I'm going there. That this elder of a far, they are trying to see their connection, interconnection within new entity in their life. So that if we, like what you are saying, I'm just sort of coming to that is very vital. If we understand that we are here to serve, the question is therefore, how are we serving? Not about me, not about me. It's about where I'm living, about the people, about what I'm part of in this entire equation of humanity and the universe.
Yes.
So where do we start from in understanding this equation and also making a better impact in the world? Where do we start?
I think we just start from knowing and what's in your hand. What do you have in your hand that can help somebody else? People think, oh, I need to be great at everything. I need to have lots of money, lots of resources. But I've learned that we've all got something in our hand. Doesn't matter how small it is. And my thing is, if you keep it closed, how does it grow? If you keep it closed, your fist closed with all your skills, your expertise, your knowledge, your competence, if you keep that closed, how does it grow? How does it multiply? That's why one person at a time. You release your fingers, and then let people experience what you have to offer. That's how it multiplies. Because it's what was that old saying? Each one teach one. When I teach somebody how to get corporate contracts, they implement and execute. They get corporate contracts. When they get corporate contracts, they make more money. When they make more money, they can then sow into other people. They can give more to charity. They can help more people. They can reduce the cost of some of their courses because they're getting income from somewhere else. So it has a ripple effect. You cannot hold your resources in a closed fist. You have to release it and allow other people to benefit from what you have.
That's lovely. That's lovely. That is very lovely. I'm not going to add to that because it's very clear and it's very, very clear. All right. Now, you said that when you get into the room, you want to trouble that room. You want to change the environment. You want to change the atmosphere. And I like that. You are very audacious on that. Tell me,
Yes.
how do you do that intentionally? Does it happen by accident, or do you intentionally do that? What are the things that you need to do to change the environment? Okay, but before you respond, I want people to understand that let's actually talking about intentionality. I don't want just to be counted as a number. I am a human being. I come with everything. I come with all my ancestors to the room. I come with all the knowledge. I come with everything. Everything is part of it. So
So
yeah,
I'll
go.
tell you, I'll tell you what. So there's two ways that I do this, depending on the setup of the event. So um, I want to make sure that when I'm speaking to people, I'm 100% listening. That's a key thing, right? I'm 100% listening. You know, when you go to events, what people tend to do, you're talking to them, and you can see they're looking past you, like who else is in the room? Who? Oh, oh yeah, and you're rushing, rushing, rushing. I don't want to do that. And I don't want to be that person. I want to be the type of person, even if I only speak to three people or two people, but I've given them my time. So I'm talking to them and I'm listening and I'm engaged. I'm active listening. I'm asking questions. I'm digging deeper. And then I'll say, you know what? I love the conversation we're having. I think we should go deeper into it. I think we can have a longer, more extended version. And then I'll exchange my details. If I do that, with three people in the room, I've already changed the atmosphere because those three people feel like they were listened to. Because I can guarantee 100%, I can bet that everybody else that they've spoken to, they're like, yeah, 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 yes, oh, yeah, that sounds good. Listen, let me speak to you later, and then go off. And then you're just like a social butterfly, right? And then sometimes it does call for that, but other times it's just slowing down a little bit and just being totally in the moment, being in the moment. So that's one form of intentionality. The other one is depending on the event. Now, everybody brings something to the table. I know God has gifted me with a voice. So, where it is feasible to do so, I always try and either start my talk or end my talk with a song. So, that particular one, when I was with the banks, we had people from different religions there. We had Muslims, we had Christians, we had atheists there, we had different people. And I said to them, thank you for having me here. My gift to you as we depart is this little song. And I sang to them, I sang 2 lines of Amazing Grace. That is it. And it didn't matter that they were all different religions or whatever. They accepted it because I offered it as a gift. And that's about being intentional. I've done that at that event. I did it when I was on the yacht. And it was just all these women and different women from all over the globe. I did it there for them as well. And that's how I can give something back and change the atmosphere. And I surely did that evening.
I never knew that you were actually a singer.
Oh, yeah.
We are going to listen to you sing today. So prepare your song, prepare your music. We are coming for that. All right, Michelle. Now let's go back to the corporate coaching. You see, I said productivity. When you have this client in front of you that you are going to coach, what is guiding your approach? Is it you want to increase productivity, you want to increase engagement for them, you want to increase sales? What really are you concentrating on, and how do you measure that at the end of the day to know if they are better than when they started, or the same, or worse off? Tell me about that a bit.
Yes. So what I do at the beginning of any engagement is just assess where they are. So I can assess things. I do a lot of work around entrepreneurship and cultural intelligence, right? So I assess in terms of I assess their thoughts, their feelings, and their outcomes. Yeah. So these are the 3 things that I assess. And so, like, if I deliver a piece of work, now I know that delivering a one piece of work is not going to change things drastically. But if I do an ongoing program, I can take stock and measure how things are changing. How do people feel within themselves as leaders? Do you feel like you're better? Do you find that people are now approaching you? If I did an entrepreneurship program, and entrepreneurship basically is showing them how they can retain top talent rather than letting talent exit and they become entrepreneurs. There's lots of that happening. There's a rise of entrepreneurship, but not everybody is a great entrepreneur, but they want the freedom that entrepreneurship brings. So my thing is, how can I help you as an organization to retain those top talent, give them the feelings of entrepreneurship that they can do within the organization, right? So that's easy to measure that, because instead of you having attrition rates and people leaving, you can see that they're staying longer. You can see that they're being given exciting and challenging work that keeps them hungry. You're giving them a sense of freedom and ownership. You're getting them to buy in shares within the organization. Those types of things are ways that you can harness. Awesome. So there are ways. So because of that, that's how you can retain your top talent. So we do checks and assessments at the beginning, we do check-ins during, and then we have like an outcome assessment to see what's happened, what has shifted, what's people saying. We we use like surveys. We might have some focus groups, we do some case studies just to get a feel of what's going on, what's changed, what's yet to be changed, and when we will see those results.
All right. Now, tell me about the training in itself. Do you do a kind of one-on-one training? Like, okay, you train the leader who then will pass on the training to the group, Because I'm looking at the corporate environment now, like maybe a company that have a lot of people in it, that are a lot of people working in the team. Do you need to train the leader who would then go to train the team, or do you go to the company to train everybody? So tell me about that.
Yes. So we do two things. We can either train leadership teams. So different leaders will come in. So when we did for BT, when we did for Lloyds Bank, it was their leadership teams. And we did them over a course of, I think it was 6 months we did. Or we can do the teams itself, the employees. So it depends on what they're looking for. So when we were doing the DNI training, we were doing the leadership teams, showing them what they need to change. Um, and that was more for a commercial outcome. So it's not to work better with their teams. We were there to introduce new DNI initiatives so that they can remain competitive as a department, as an organization. So they had commercial outcomes. But then when I was working with the universities, I was working with the staff to become better leaders for their teams. So sometimes it might have a commercial outcome or it might have an internal outcome. So that's how we do it. So with the university, we had like heads of departments, we had someone in HR, we had somebody who was in research, someone, we had professors, and they were all at different grades and and their outcome was to go up at least 2 grades. They didn't want to leave the university, they just wanted to be internally promoted. So we supported them on what does the leader of a grade 8 look like and how do they operate as opposed to a leader of a grade 5. So we had to look at how do you analyze things through a strategic lens? How do you lead a remote team? How do you use communication as a tool to drive productivity? So all of those kind of things, whatever, and we looked at about how to be a powerful leader. So those are the tenets of our leadership training when we are working with leadership teams to help them with an internal outcome.
All right, leadership. Okay, now as a coach, as a leadership coach, a corporate leadership coach, um, how do you describe leadership in terms of business and business environment? What does it even mean?
So for me, when we're talking specifically for leadership coaching, which are usually one-on-one, you can do them bigger, but with a bigger cohort. But the ones I've experienced have been one-on-one. And for me, when we come in, it's about leadership is about impact and about change. Those are the two main things. You cannot be a leader and not have impact, and you cannot be a leader that doesn't produce change. So those are the two things that we will focus on. What does that look like for you? What does that look like for the department? And my background also is in neuro-linguistic programming, NLP. And NLP talks about um, is a tool on how you use the mind and language to make change, transformation. So I use my principles of NLP in my leadership coaching. So I look at if you were to change, who will be affected by it in your team? Who will be affected by it personally? Does it put you in a vulnerable position? Does it strengthen your resolve? So we look at different things. We also look at the way people think or see themselves, things that they are fearful of. We try and minimize that. It's a mental thing that we use, a mental exercise. We do perceptual positioning so they can see what they look like as a leader, what other people see, what they look like a leader, and then we have the guru. What is the right way to lead? Get them to think how other people see them, and that's perceptual positioning. And we also have another tool or exercise I do with them is to get them to see themselves in time, in future time. What does that leader look like? What things do they need to let go of? What things do they need to pick up on their journey? Where are they going to pick it up from? What resources do they have around them that they can use? And these are all empowering and enlightening questions to get them to get to the answer rather than me tell them. I get them to answer. So I put them on a timeline, and I get them to go back to a time where they were really great as a leader and they had impact and it made a difference in people's lives. How did they feel? What did they look like? What could they hear? What could they see? What could they feel? When I get them to do those inner work, it's transformational.
All right. All right. Okay. Now, let's look at specific names and things like that. Have you gone through maybe the role of different leaders that you are going to be training, and you see that they didn't get maybe these basics of how to be a good leader? So you are going to have to start to train them, help them to understand some of these basics. Because if they understand the basics, they know what they are supposed to do, and they do it, and they get the result, you will not get any job. Because your job now is to help them to understand how to approach or give them new approach, as it were. So I'm trying to understand, have you encountered leaders that don't understand some of these basics on how to become leader, or maybe they understand it, they don't understand it the way that it's supposed to work? So help me understand, where do you usually find them within what you have explained to me?
So I think it's usually leaders who've had some sort of formal training. Some of them may not have had formal training. Before, I used to work with new leaders. So these are people who have been recently promoted and they may have not had any formal training. And now they're getting to lead people who are their peers. So that's the training that I used to do, or the coaching I used to do with them. And getting them to understand the foundations and the fundamentals of what it is to be a true leader. But now I work with people who are already leading, but they are short sighted because they've done things the way they've always done it and they think that's the only way. So I get them to open up to see other ways of leading. And they may have one style and it's always been quite bureaucratic, like I'll tell them what to do and they'll do it. But then I show them how to bring in other types of leadership into their styles because their teams are dynamic, their teams are multi-generation, their teams are multi-dimensional. So the way they led before is not going to work for the new generation of teams that they have underneath them. So we need to make sure that they can be more democratic types of leaders at sometimes. They might have to be more compassionate leaders. They might have to be directional leaders. So we just look at little bit of facets of each of those so that they become a 360 leader, not just a 180.
All right. So you were listing out some leaders there. Of course, that make me to be curious. Are there types of leaders? I don't know. Maybe it could be based on their psychology or their personality that exists within the corporate world that maybe people should know of. That could also mean leaders themselves that sometimes maybe they don't know, or they know they don't know enough of it. Yesterday, I was in a training program. I interviewed somebody who, okay, we sort of established a relationship. And then he invited me for a training, 3-hour training actually, yesterday. And it was about this shift, a kind of shift in mindset. And of course, I thank him for that. So I'm trying to understand if there are different types of leaders or leadership types or personality type, I don't know how you usually would put it, that people should know of within the business environment.
Brilliant. Yeah, there's definitely different types of leaders for different situations. And like I'd mentioned before, it's getting them to understand when to utilize certain traits. So I talk about leadership traits rather than leadership personalities. And it's understanding to be a whole leader, you might need to have different traits and show different traits at different times. And it's getting them to understand that. And one of the things that in finance, so I do a lot of leadership for finance companies and the oil and gas industry. They have completely two different types of leadership styles, and or leadership traits, and it's getting the getting like the oil and gas industry, because they want to now create. They get into the stage where they want to create mini leaders, which is great. So it's how do you become a leader, that you're creating upcoming leaders, is all about using the trait of servant leadership. How can you support them rather than you being at the front and you're pulling them? You want to be behind pushing them. So we can show them different traits that they will need for the future.
Oh, right. Thank you so much, Michelle. This is really very beautiful. I appreciate the conversation. Now, for those people that are maybe listening to you to the end of this conversation and they want to connect with you, so what is the best way to reach out to you? Please share with them.
Yes, I'm very active on LinkedIn. So you'll find me under LinkedIn. You can either type in Michelle Raymond or the People's Partner. Either one will come up. And or on Instagram, I'm quite active on Instagram as well. Once again, I think I'm under Michelle Raymond underscore inspires. So that's where I share more of my inspirational, my behind the scenes journey. We keep LinkedIn for that professional look. But yeah, either platforms, people can connect with me if they want to find out more about the work that I'm doing with companies. If you are an entrepreneur and you're thinking, I could really do with adding a stream of income by working with corporates to make sure that I'm building that generational wealth. That's what that's about. Then yeah, hit me up. Hit me up. Definitely. And I'm working on a book as well.
Lovely.
I'm
You
working
see,
on a book.
we're going to have something more to talk about, Michelle. You see, you're going to have
Yes,
a few
yes.
more time there. We will hook up again. This is really important.
Yeah, the book's going to be incredible, absolutely incredible.
Lovely. So, how do you want to conclude this conversation? What is your final message here?
I think my final message is be open to learn. Be open to learn, which means for you to be open enough to learn, you have to be open enough to unlearn what you think you know. And that's where the challenge comes in. Don't think that because you've done it this way over this period of time, that's the only way. We sometimes have to unlearn to relearn. And that's the stage that I'm in. So I'm doing things slightly differently, things that scare me a little. It's a bit risky, but that's the way how I'm just going to become my full self. So, yeah, I would say be open to learn and be open to unlearn.
Michelle Raymond, thank you so much for the time. You really have been very beautiful here. I appreciate it, sister. Thank you very much.
Thank you.